Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Right Side Up. My name is Mike Taglavia. Today, I have a guest with me, long time coming, Ross Connolly from Americans for Prosperity. Welcome, Ross.
Thanks for having me, Mike. Great to be here.
I'm glad to have you with us. Very glad to have you with us. So why don't you just right away get right into what Americans for Prosperity is all about?
Sure. So I'm the Northeast Regional Director for AFP. We are the nation's largest grassroots organization. So the main purpose of AFP is empowering people in their local communities to make a difference. So whether that's we train them how to be more effective, or we give them the policy knowledge or the tools to advocate for policy change that they'd like to see, whether in their local town, county, state, or even at the national level, where we do lots of work with Congress right now. But really our bread and butter is state level policy work to connect policies to politicians, to outcomes, to show what actually is happening in your state house, how you can make a difference, and then seeing what the results of those policy changes. It's something that's often lost in politics is, everyone's so ideological and driven towards their own goals. We see top-down solutions, so just giant programs that sound great. They name them like really great sounding bills.
The catchy
the
names.
Affordable Care Act or something.
That's completely unaffordable.
Yeah, it's usually the opposite. My rule is it's the opposite of what the creative name is.
Yes.
But those top-down solutions don't work. They leave most people behind and work for a select few. What we want is bottom-up solutions that is driven by communities to remove barriers that in government that are holding people back from being able to reach whatever version of the American dream they'd like to see. Okay,
so I'm glad you brought that up. Things that are holding people back. My first exposure to Americans for Prosperity was through mailers that your organization did. And they were addressed at the time. The campaign was a campaign against Act 18, the Clean Heat Standard. And I think it was very effective. And when I did finally meet you at a Young Republicans event, mm-hmm. where you gave a talk, and I'd like you to talk a little bit more before I forget about the trainings that you can do. But I asked, how do I get your endorsement? And you said you don't do endorsements, you just do policy. And Act 18 was one of the policies that you were advocating against because, like you said, it's not going to help the average Vermonter. It's not going to help the retired Vermonter who's on a fixed income. It's going to hurt them.
It is hurting people.
Yeah,
I mean, that was one of the things. We started our work in Vermont about 2.5, going on 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I'm originally from New Hampshire.
Okay.
I live in New Hampshire. We always sort of saw Vermont and, was like, a lot of people called it bizarro New Hampshire, just a little different policy-wise and government-wise. So I wanted to really, see where can we help people here? There's a lot of problems Vermont faces, but what is the big one that we could be well positioned to make a difference on and let people know about? And almost immediately, it was Act 18, Clean Heat Standard, that you talk to people around the state. One, they didn't really know that it was that policy that's driving, increases in energy costs, that policy or the Global Warming Solutions Act, either or.
Yeah, both, hand in hand, right.
So, we wanted to really get the word out that, hey, this is what this policy's doing. They're trying to hide it from you. And this is going to be a really big problem for the state. And we don't have to, go completely backwards. It doesn't have to be A or B, my way or the highway. There's a moderate middle ground solution to make it work for more people. But these mandates
Right.
that are driving costs are unsustainable.
And I agree with you. We don't need one solution for our energy and our vehicles and our heat. Just like when you walk down the aisle, the dairy aisle in the supermarket, how many choices have you got? Why not have a number of choices? Nuclear, electric, EVs, gas-powered vehicles, internal combustion vehicles, diesel-powered. What about hydrogen? I think Toyota is probably going to be the first to come out with a hydrogen-powered engine. But why not have all these options and have them compete for our business to help drive the cost down instead of having government regulation? And what do we get with that? The cost driven up.
I couldn't agree more. No one wants their government picking, what kind of groceries you can have. They currently don't like the government picking what kind of healthcare you can have, because that's our healthcare system.
Yeah, and it's not working out very well, is
No,
it?
nobody likes it. It's,
No.
it's consistently one of the top issues for people. It's an issue we work on as well. But, we're coming up on the 250th anniversary of our country. We are founded on freedom.
Yes.
Let people be free. Free people are capable of incredible things.
Yes.
You see it every day in America. The hardworking, immigrant that came here from, a much worse situation, was able to create a business. And be successful. And that comes down the line too of
Yes.
it improves the lives of the consumer. It improves the lives of everybody. So having the freedom to choose whether the government thinks it's a good idea or not a good idea should be irrelevant. Freedom is the most important thing, and that's what's driven the American economy for the past 250 years. And we have to get back to that more in the state of Vermont. That remove these unnecessary barriers in government.
Yeah,
Government's
government-
not the solution to everything.
It's the
Very
problem.
likely it's not the solution to most things.
No, I believe I agree with you. I agree with you. Government isn't the solution. It's the problem. There is a role for government, and it's mostly public safety. When we're talking about state government, okay, fine. We need to deal with the roads, public safety, criminal justice system, things like that. Healthcare, not so much. Let us, if we could purchase our healthcare across state lines, how much cheaper would it be? Because we know we'll be able to find another insurer that will help cover us. Especially now, we have a relatively small group, and our group is aging, which drives the cost of it up. So if we were to step outside of the boundaries of our state, it's almost a guarantee that we're going to be able to find it cheaper.
Yeah, honestly, when you look at polling, like what the top issues, and it's across New England specifically, but really it's the same across the country. Healthcare, cost of living, affordability,
Yep.
Energy, cost of energy. Those all happen to be like the most regulated industries. I don't think it's a coincidence that the industries that have the most government involvement are the industries that people are most unhappy with. The healthcare industry being a massive example of it.
Yes.
And there's simple things that we can do at the state level, direct primary care. So you actually see what the price of healthcare is, and you can actually pay for things based on the price. Getting rid of certificate of need boards
Yes.
that are cronyist, that they just block out competition to favor the select few healthcare providers in a state. These are rational decisions, and we can see based on other states that have reformed these industries, reformed their regulations, that when they do that, it helps everybody. Almost everybody's happy. Maybe not the giant hospital owner, but the people that need the healthcare, that need the service, they're happy.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. If we call it healthcare, then the hospital owner should be worried about the person who comes to the hospital who's sick. They're the customer. The customer needs to leave happy. And by happy, I mean not bankrupt. If they're healthy, but they have no money, or they can count on not having any money for the next 20 years of their life, then how prosperous is their life going to be anyway if they're alive, but they're broke? So that's one of the main things. But I also, we've got, I don't know, about 5 more minutes. There's so much I want to cover, and I know we want a short period of time. So I do want to get into a little bit of some of the trainings that your organization does. So if you can give us just maybe a little overview about that.
Sure. Most people, they want to be active. They want to, either they have a passion on a single bill, or, maybe they want to run for office at the local level, state level, what have you. But most people don't know where do I begin? It's sort of like looking up a mountain. And we provide free of charge trainings on specific topics. You want to learn a skill. We teach how to tell your story, how to influence a legislator, how to pass a bill. We do candidate trainings if you want to run for public office. That really give you the skills you need to be able to be effective in pursuing whatever you'd like to do. We do certifications, but we also have 1 night or 3-part trainings that give you a quick overview of what whatever topic you want to dive deep into.
Okay. Well, that's good to know, because here at Right Side Up, we are about informing the listeners, both on the New Hampshire side and Vermont side. And by the way, you currently live in New Hampshire, is that correct?
I am born and raised Granite Stater. I live in Merrimack, but I'm Vermont by spirit, so okay. I love Vermont. And really all the New England states, New Hampshire is just obviously the ray of sunshine and hope in the Northeast.
Well, I'm glad we got you here, because I keep promising our New Hampshire listeners that I'll have something, a little bit of meat for them. But lately my shows have been Vermont centric, so I'm glad I was able to have you so we can have a little bit about both states.
Yeah, I could talk endlessly about all the good things New Hampshire's doing and all the bad things Vermont has done. Although Governor Scott has been a great champion for Vermonters here, but there's a lot more work to do here than New Hampshire.
There is. And your governor, I covered it on the show maybe 3-4 weeks ago. School choice, great. It was absolutely great to see. I hope the wind changes. The prevailing winds are westerly. We need the wind to change to come our way from across New Hampshire, so maybe we will get a whiff of that school choice and try to get hooked on it over here. I think that would definitely be a plus for all of the students of Vermont.
It's a movement nationally. I mean, we are seeing state after state expand education freedom. Yep. And the results, like the kids, the stories, of these horrible policies that keep kids locked in a zip code because of some, pre-Civil Rights Act policy that was designed to entrap them in their neighborhood because they didn't want those kids in the other neighborhoods, other schools. So these are terrible policies, but things like education freedom accounts in New Hampshire, applaud to Governor Ayotte, who made that universal so that every kid has that option in New Hampshire. But every kid in the United States should have the same option.
I agree with you. And I hope we can bring it H89, not to pat my own back, but that is one of my bills, and I hope to have it start moving next session. But we're coming up on the end of our first segment, ladies and gentlemen. We've got to pay some bills, but we will be right back. You're listening to Right Side Up. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Right Side Up. My name is Mike Taglavia. Today in studio I have as a guest Ross Connolly from Americans for Prosperity. I want to switch gears a little bit, talk about energy policy and how it affects Vermont. But I want to do, before we get into that, there's an article on Vermont Daily Chronicle dated July 13. Vermont's poor showing in new CNBC business survey bears warning. Let's see. Overall, Vermont ranked 38th in a survey out Thursday, sliding one place from number 37 last year in the lowest quarter and down from number 29 in 2023. The Green Mountain State was behind Massachusetts, Connecticut, and New Hampshire among New England states in the 2025 survey. Now, I brought that up, and ladies and gentlemen, you can find that on VermontDailyChronicle.com. But the economy of Vermont, energy in Vermont, is a big part of the cost of living in Vermont. We have to deal with energy policy in a really smart way in this state. A number of things we should cover. The clean heat standard. It's supposedly dormant, which means it's still there, and the Democrats, if they get the numbers, will bring it back and vote on policy, and we'll be stuck with it. It needs to be repealed. We've got the Global Warming Solutions Act mandates. We are currently in court dealing with that. Losing money, spending tax dollars instead of multiple courts. Losing tax dollars. So we need to change those to goals, and you and I have spoken off air about, okay, we can still, this is a very green, environmentally conscious state. Having the goals doesn't mean we walk away from being environmentally friendly. It means we just don't get sued.
Mm-hmm.
We pursue policies.
Rational.
Yes.
I mean, just having common sense and not putting ideology over the well-being of the population,
right,
is a great place to start. I mean, if the Vermont economy was a human body, I mean, the American economy, the heart of it is the energy sector. Yes. Nothing works without energy.
Yeah, no.
And cheap, reliable energy.
And we've come to take it for granted.
Yeah, and the Clean Heat Standard, the Global Warming Solutions Act, that is congenital heart disease that we are giving our own economy.
Yes.
Because of these mandates. Like you said, if they were just goals, then that's fine. Goals are great. You know, it's great to have goals to make a cleaner and better world. But when you say it has to be this way, without any rational thought.
Yeah, or we're going to get sued. We guarantee you do this or you're going to get sued. So,
yeah, and in terms of, you know, I'm spacing on the name of the bill where they suing fossil fuel, Superfund bill.
The Climate Superfund.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, you're disincentivizing any company from coming in and investing in Vermont, maybe with newer technologies that make, you know, natural gas cleaner or what have you. We're not going to solve the world's climate problem here in Vermont. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. Most likely, you know, the United States at large has been reducing carbon emissions more than any country on Earth that I'm aware of.
But globally, we're only 15% of the output.
Yeah, it just doesn't matter when China builds, you know, 100 coal power stations every month or whatever the number is. It's just we shouldn't. There's middle ground here. Like we just need a more moderate policy in the state of Vermont. Having more moderates in the legislature that are like, hey, we're going to address these things. We want to have a plan for the future, but we're not going to punish our people and tell them that you're going to have to pay more, get less, and you're going to the future is bleak. That's basically the message they're saying. The future is bleak. We are not going to be growing. We're not going to have abundance. We're not going to have these future technologies here in the state of Vermont. We're just going to, you know, regress because of our you know, we are just bent on these policies centered on an ideology.
Right. Well, the message from Right Side Up is the exact opposite. The future is so bright. You know the song, Future's So Bright, You Gotta Wear Shades? That's the thing. I believe, and I have the message, and we talk about this all the time, especially with our school students, our young people in school, who are getting the living hell scared out of them about the global climate change, whatever the catchphrase of the day is, and carbon emissions and everything else. CO2 is at 0.04% of the atmosphere. It's at some of the lowest levels we've seen without having plant materials start to die. CO2 is a nutrient, a plant nutrient. So teaching kids that carbon dioxide is bad is not sound science. It's not. And to scare kids instead of, why are we not energizing kids to try to find other ways to solve our energy solutions instead of telling our kids the only way are wind and solar?
I mean, the future is going to be incredible.
It is.
I mean, it's
It
happening now. It's just every day there are more incredible things happening. The AI revolution may rival, Gutenberg's printing press. But to do that, we need enormous amounts of energy. Not just reliable energy, but like enormous amounts of it. And we want that to be produced in a clean way. Many of these companies are purchasing nuclear plants. Like if you are concerned with the environment, you should be the most pro-nuclear person out there. Like that is the way of the future, is, these small modular nuclear plants, eventually fusion. And that's going to be a future everybody can, be excited about. And having a better economy here in Vermont, attracting some of these companies here. There's no reason they can't be here.
No, none at all.
The only reason they're not here is because the government policies make it impossible for them to operate.
Yeah, and I just learned from you not too long ago that the small modular nuclear plants actually use, I would call it recycling, because they're using spent nuclear fuel from something else to actually produce the power. So we're taking something that we thought at one time was not usable, and now we are actually using it for our energy needs. I mean, why is that not a win-win?
I mean, they're safe, they're reliable, they're small. I mean, look at the footprint of one of these buildings. It's like a small warehouse compared to like the amount of power you would need to equal that in a solar or wind farm would take up an entire county in the state of Vermont. So you have to be rational and say, well, I believe in humanity. Like, I believe in people and helping people. That's why I do what I do, is I get to see the effect on their lives and the positive impact, our policy advocacy has led to. I think a lot of the folks on this, the climate alarmism side, they don't seem to care about the people impact. The grandma down the street that can't afford her groceries because her energy bill went up 20%.
Right.
These are irrational policies that are leading to real harm to people, when just a little moderation would probably fix the problem. But they're unwilling to admit, I think it's a problem in society at large right now, they're unwilling to admit they're wrong.
Wow. If you walk around the State House, that is a big problem. A big problem. There are so few people willing to admit that mistakes were made. And that needs to be, we're only human, like you said. We're only human. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's admit we made a mistake. These bills, these laws we enacted, we didn't think about the unintended consequences. Guess what? We made a mistake. We need to get back to the drawing board. We need to fix this. Instead of causing our citizens, our hard-working, tax-paying residents to decide, well, I have to up and move.
It blows my mind that after all the focus, like all the Vermonters that went out and voted November 5th, like they really went out and voted for the affordability issue, and energy was a big part of that. And it blows my mind that the progressive majority in the legislature didn't do anything. Not only that, they stalled any effort. Like you had many bills, good bills, to try and fix these issues. They stalled any effort to try and fix it. And that's a shame, and it's a disservice to their constituents.
I agree with you. I think it is a disservice, but they honestly have come out and said, I was at an event in Essex where they came out and said, 3 elected state officials, they know that in midterms that the incumbents, the people who are in office, are typically they're going to lose seats. The Democrats are sitting back. The majority are sitting back, and they're going to try to force Vermonters to wait 2.5 now, 3 years, wait so they can regain seats to push on with the agenda. And the agenda is not a pro-Vermont economy agenda. It's not pro-housing agenda. It's not let's keep young people in Vermont agenda. It's not let's welcome or encourage our retirees to stay agenda. So that we need to remind people that, like you said, educate people on how to get involved and stay involved. And that's one of the reasons why we love being here and having you on Right Side Up, to inform people on how to get involved and stay involved and educate themselves about, being civically involved and civically minded, because the more of our listeners here at Right Side Up and others of some of the other conservative outlets that there are in Vermont, the more people who do get involved, the quicker we turn this around.
There's tons of hope for this state. I am so hopeful for Vermont. The people know what they're facing. They know what the problems are. And we'll be doing just that this summer. So keep an eye out. We'll be doing a tour of town halls, talking about these issues to average Vermonters right in your town. We'll be online, promoting the good solutions that folks like yourself have come up with, and really focusing on how do we fix the situation we're in. Obviously, accountability has to be there for the folks that keep trying to stop this progress from happening. But we're gonna push forward as much as possible. I have tons of hope for Vermont, and we're gonna be here for the long term. We're not going anywhere. We see tons of opportunity here to make an impact and fight for Vermonters. So we're sticking around. They won't get rid of us.
Well, we're glad to have you here. We really are glad to have you here, because there are so many people I've come across, and you and I talked about this off air, who believe the state is lost, and I vehemently disagree.
No, you can't have that mindset.
The state is far from lost. The history of this state of Vermont, I mean, you have to, and in the past few years we've had a number of mild winters, but you have to be a pretty rugged person to survive Vermont winters here. They can be, you can have, in a typical Vermont winter, seeing 20 below for a couple days straight at night, and maybe not seeing above 0 for a week or so straight. So that's the kind of hardiness that there is in the state that I believe is going to get us through this. So
it's the signs right on your window. Vermont's strong.
Yeah.
I mean, the people of Vermont are strong, and I think the direction this state is extremely hopeful.
I do as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we're coming up against a break. We've got to pay some bills. You're listening to Right Side Up. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Right Side Up. My name is Mike Taglavia. Today, my guest is Ross Connolly for Americans for Prosperity. Before we get back into our discussion, I just want to remind our listeners, if for some reason you can't catch us on the radio at WNTK, go to WNTK.com, find the podcast button, click on it, scroll down to Right Side Up. You'll be able to listen to any number of our podcasts. And by all means, if you like it, please send it to a friend. You can also find us on Podbean. You can find us on GraniteGrok.com. Thank you very much to Steve and all of the people at Granite Grok. You can find us at 802 Scoop Facebook. And you can also find us on the 802 Scoop YouTube. If you'd like to drop us a line, please do so at rightsideUpradio@gmail.com. So, Ross, you brought up a good topic for us. We could try to do a little comparison here. And before we get into it, I want to remind our listeners, I'm not trying to encourage our Vermont listeners to move to New Hampshire when we start to talk about the differences in affordability. I'm just trying, what I hope is the winds will change and we will have the ideas of the freedoms and less government regulation to drift across the Connecticut River into Vermont to make Vermont a more attractive state for people from all over the country. So affordability, it's a big, huge issue. It was a huge issue during the election. New Hampshire versus Vermont, where do we start?
I mean, the big thing, Vermont has the lowest GDP of any state in the country. So just right off the bat, the lack of opportunity that one number provides compared to New Hampshire that consistently grows their GDP. They have the fastest growth GDP in the region, one of the fastest in the country. And I think it's really it's the two dynamics of the states. Like New Hampshire, they have the New Hampshire advantage. They, even the Democrats support that. Low taxes, low government, low spending, and that will lift all boats. And it has. I mean, you look at every number, some of the best education in the country, some of the most opportunity, small business opportunity, income, average income per capita income is about not quite double Vermont. It's a big difference.
Right.
Both from Vermont and Maine, by the way. The just size of the state, how it's grown. If you go back to the late 80s, 90s, the populations were pretty similar between Vermont and New Hampshire.
Really, I did not realize that.
New Hampshire's is now 1.3, going on 1.4 million. And Vermont stayed about the same, under 1 million. Obviously, there's geographical differences between the states. The mountains in Vermont go straight through the state. They kind of just cross the top half of New Hampshire, but that doesn't matter. Like it's what drives the New Hampshire economy is the government. They are first in freedom. Almost every single researcher that has looked at freedom rankings puts New Hampshire as one of the freest places, not just in the United States, but in the entire world. And it's because of that mentality of hands-off government. There will be a social safety net to help you if you need it. There will be government where you need it, but not where you don't need it. And that's an important distinction from the Vermont approach.
Yeah. I think part of the problem we have in Vermont is we're in a tug of war where we kind of speak out of both sides of our mouth when it comes to government and the legislature. We want to preserve vast areas in the state, which is a noble cause. But the problem is you can't say that you want more housing and you want to bring young people, because the more land you're preserving, the more land you're taking out of the possibility, you're removing the possibility of someone putting a home there, raising their family here, and contributing not just to the tax base, but there are how many businesses now are starved for labor. So, and if we don't have affordability to have the craftspeople, the tradespeople to build the homes, then we're going to be stuck, and we're going to be sitting on our side of the Connecticut River watching the economy and the population of New Hampshire prosper, while we are sitting here on our side scratching our heads saying, what did we do wrong?
Housing is a great example, actually, of a shared issue both New Hampshire and Vermont have had. Both states, it's actually an area where New Hampshire is not great. Mm-hmm. They are very stringent, local zoning and planning boards, lots of regulations, lots of red tape that has stalled development. Mm-hmm. And Vermont, very similar. It is not the lack of money that developers have. They do not need subsidies. They do not need money. They need, and I've talked to many of them, they need government to get out of the way and to allow them to build the housing that's needed in the states to be able to lower that price and attract young people, most importantly. New Hampshire, this past session, in their legislature, passed, I think, dozens of bills addressing the housing problem. This idea of, lot size requirements, and,
Yep.
If there was a rare amphibian spotted there, 20 years ago, we have to do a whole 10-year review or something.
Right.
Those are unnecessary things that they largely reformed. Vermont has taken, some incremental steps. There's a positive, I think, incremental step starting to address some of the regulatory aspect. But what's really needed is what the Governor Phil Scott has said. They need total rewrite of Act 250. Get these regulations out of the way. There is tons of room to build in Vermont. And I get the concern of people that's like, oh, the sprawl, it'll ruin our small town environment. But I always point to places like, Portsmouth, New Hampshire, or, parts of, Beacon Hill, Boston, where it's those beautiful row houses, dense housing, lots of shops and stuff. That's illegal to build in most places. That's the housing most people want. But it's stalled because of regulations. So that's an area, New Hampshire and Vermont, actually pretty similar. New Hampshire's taken a couple more steps, but I think both states have still a lot more to do to attract those young people. Because your point is correct. You got to be able to have the people to work the businesses if you're going to grow the economy.
Yeah, and to your point about regulations, you have the zoning, whether it be lot sizes, whatever, and all this land use regulations. The people who can least afford to go through dealing with surveys, hydrological studies, all of these other issues, just trying to get your well and your septic sited and having the plats done, things like that, they all wind up costing money. They add huge cost to the project before you even stick a shovel in the ground. And the people who can least afford it are the ones who sit back and watch those who have plenty of money, who can afford these things, and they have more time to wait for that process to go through. And that's one of the reasons why we have the kind of development we have, because of the stringent regulations. I get that there needs to be some sort of safeties so we don't wind up with the kind of development that we've seen in certain states and certain areas that we don't want. But when you get to a point where we are now, there's a very small group who can afford to come and build and say, oh, look, this is a wonderful place to live. I agree. It is a wonderful place to live. But if you make the list of restrictions so long and so onerous, then the list of people who can afford to do it is a very small list.
Yeah, and it's the American dream, right? Like,
and
everyone
you're
wants
stealing it from Vermonters.
Yeah, everyone wants to be able to own a home.
Yeah.
And it's kind of depressing talking to young people now. I try to give them hope, like, yes, this will change. This too will pass. But, they feel like they'll never be able, they're stuck in a renting cycle. They'll never be able to afford a home. That's not right.
No.
And those are the people we at AFP, we fight for all Americans, no matter your politics, no matter your background, but most especially the people that, get left behind, that get ignored. Right now, it's a lot of the younger generation, it's a tough situation where they're not having the opportunities that their parents have had, and that's not a good sign for the country. But there's no reason we can't change that, and get back to the fundamentals of freedom and prosperity and giving opportunity to people. That's all people want.
Yeah, and kind of circling back to the education part that we talked about earlier, getting a little bit of education about how you get involved, whether it be becoming a candidate or just learning how to get a hold of your legislator or write to them and actually, have a bill, get a bill going or help get a bill passed. All of that is giving you more power over your opportunity in your state, in your town, in your little city, whatever it is, to be able to have a family, raise a family. Like you brought up, it's the American dream is not to live in an apartment house. It's to have a home with a backyard to raise a family, right? Mm-hmm. We talked about people coming to this country for the American dream. I had a family member tell me about some men that he met who were painters, and when they first came to this country, they didn't understand why Americans work so hard. And then one day it dawned on them, the country they came from was communist, and no matter how hard they worked, they got the same pay. So nothing really got done, but they didn't get paid much. And as soon as they realized the harder you work, the more you make, when that clicked, that's when they became prosperous. And that's when they started living the American dream, because they realized their hard work pays off here, and we can't stifle that. And I think the regulation in this state is stifling that right now. And we need to find a way. We need to find the numbers or have the numbers elected in this state of people who understand that, so we can do more like our neighbors in New Hampshire and get government out of the way.
If you're frustrated with government, which I can totally understand, you're frustrated with you can't afford a home, you can't find the job that you want, you can't get on the path, especially if you're a younger person, you're not speaking up, you're not doing something about it, then you got to get involved. You have to be that voice, because that's part of the American dream. It didn't create itself.
That's part of the responsibility of it.
Mostly a lot of young people back in the late 1700s that decided they were sick of it and spoke up and organized and fought back. Obviously don't fight back in that way, but I would suggest going to greenmountainprosperity.com, and we make it super easy for you to get involved, or you can go to Americans for Prosperity in New Hampshire by visiting AFP americansforprosperity.org and just click on New Hampshire, and you can get involved there too, because in both states there's plenty to fight for. There's a lot more here. And just real quick to back you up, Mike, do not leave Vermont. No. Vermont is worth fighting for.
It is absolutely
Stay here, fight for it. We can win. There's hope, and we're going to change it together. So everyone stick around, and we'll see the show together.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for Right Side Up for this week. I want to thank Ross from Americans for Prosperity for spending the time with us. It was great to have you with us. I hope you can join us again. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember, stay safe, stay informed, listen to Right Side Up.